Hi, I'm Professor Matthew Bales, and I'd like to tell you about a fascinating new system my colleagues and I have discovered with the giant Parkes radio telescope. The Parkes telescope is in New South Wales in Australia, and is a prolific discoverer of special stars astronomers call pulsars. In November 2008, we started a very large survey of the southern sky looking for pulsars. Pulsars are neutron stars. They weigh about 500,000 times as much as the Earth, but are only 20 kilometers across. Their rotation makes them appear to pulse once per rotation period, and they spin up to an amazing 700 times per second. The radio waves from the pulsar travel across the galaxy and are focused by the dish in what we call the focus. In the focus is housed a very special receiver called the Parkes multibeam receiver, and we digitize the minute voltages induced by the pulsars 800 million times a second. In 2009, a 5.7 millisecond pulsar was discovered on our supercomputers, and our colleagues at Jodrell Bank soon realized that this star was orbiting another object every 2 hours. The motion of the pulsar told us that the companion only weighed about as much as Jupiter, and is incredibly dense, similar to that of platinum. The rapid spin of the pulsar tells us that the system once possessed a massive accretion disk, as the pulsar stripped matter from its stellar companion. The leftover of this star is what we see today as the planet. The evolutionary history and amazing density of the planet all suggest it's comprised of carbon, i.e. a massive diamond, orbiting a neutron star every 2 hours, in an orbit so tight it would fit inside our own sun.
Stars live and die over millions or even billions of years. Even the most reckless stars live for at least 1 million years, longer than the entire history of humankind. Hubble's vivid images have documented the tumultuous birth of stars and delivered many astonishing images in colorful detail.
When you look at the night sky, stars look like permanent beacons of light. However, stars are born, live for a period of time, and then ultimately die. How they die is directly linked to how massive they were when they were born.
The Sun has been around for about 4.5 billion years, and it has about 5 billion years to go before it turns into a white dwarf star, a much smaller, burned-out object.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا الشمس كورت.
But what about those stars that are much more massive than the Sun?
Stars that are a lot more massive than the Sun will explode as supernovas. When the fuel in these stars starts to run out, they collapse violently onto themselves because of their huge gravity. In some cases, neutron stars form in the middle, and in other cases, for the more massive stars, black holes are formed. These black holes will swallow up a lot of the remains of the exploded star, and this stuff will be locked up forever.
وإذا النجوم انكدرت فلا أقسم بالخنس الجوار الكنس والليل إذا عسعس.
We come to the earth, which, well, grew to get here, the way it is now. Here is our world, our planet Earth, floating in space. We will be going backward in time, imperfectly, but done in a very disciplined manner. Please notice there is no subduction, no rotation of tectonic plates, no twisting, no form-fitting, no altering shapes or sizes. It would be impossible for these continental plates to fit together perfectly without this being true, and yet the upper tectonic plates fit together perfectly on a much smaller planet. Yes, there's been some erosion, landslides, blah blah, but overall this activity is insignificant. There is a kind of conspiracy of silence among certain scientists. They know, but are not telling you, that the upper tectonic plates of Earth also join in the Pacific. Not partially. They join totally. You are asked to believe that the continents swim or drift about willy-nilly, bumping and crashing as if they were on a greased skillet. This is not true. The simple truth is apparently too upsetting to too many apple carts. We're now going forward in time to show how the actual growth of the Earth took place. Imperfect as to details, but the overall is nailed. Antarctica, as you see, has become subtropical. Africa, on a smaller globe, moved way downward under the globe. In fact, for hundreds of millions of years.
رفع سمكها فسواها وأغطش ليلها وأخرج ضحاها والأرض بعد ذلك دحاها أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها والجبال أرساها متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم.
We had a pretty spectacular origin, I think.
Recent research suggests the solar system's birth was far from peaceful. Our sun may in fact have been born out of one of the most violent events in the cosmos. The explosive death of another star. And even before that, it seems there was an explosion so huge that it created an entire universe. The Big Bang. No one knows what caused it, but we think that the Bang created space, time, and all the matter in the universe.
أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما.
Since the Big Bang, the universe has continued to grow and expand. To understand just how big it has grown, we need to take an imaginary spaceship ride from the Earth to the edge of the visible universe. Our nearest neighbor is the Moon, just 250,000 miles away. At the center of our solar system, 93 million miles away, is our Sun. This is as far as our spaceship can take us. We are now 50 billion trillion miles from Earth.
والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون والسماء ذات الحبك
The islanders may have had little inside world, but they claim the outside world is destroying them. They say they are doomed.
The island's sinking. We do see with our own eyes that our islands are sinking. We love the place, we love the islands, but it's sad to see this island going finish.
Hello and welcome to World's Untold Stories. I'm Colleen McEdwards. A recent report on global warming warned that entire cultures are at risk of being wiped out if nothing is done. There's still a lot of debate about whether rising sea levels and rising temperatures are the result of pollution or simply normal cycles of climate change. But there's one group of people that doesn't need any convincing about this. In the documentary, That Sinking Feeling, Steve Marshall visits a group of islands in the South Pacific that seem to be disappearing one hut, one garden, one village at a time.
The people of the Carterets are desperate. Lacking in food, their livelihoods destroyed. 400 years of occupation is about to end. While the best scientific minds in the world argue whether sea levels are rising by millimeters or centimeters, here predictions mean nothing. The damage has already been done. What's happening here is extraordinary. Since the 1950s, the sea has risen at a phenomenal rate, and no one can explain it.
وإذا الوحوش حشرت وإذا البحار سجرت وما خلقنا السماء والأرض وما بينهما لاعبين.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Welcome to Islam for Dummies. Today, we will be talking about scientific facts regarding the expansion and description of the universe that were stated in the Quran 1400 years ago. It is important to point out that while it is not a science textbook, yet the Quran mentions numerous scientific facts long before they were discovered. First, we will examine some scientific facts about the universe and compare them to the Quran chapter 51 verse 47.
But what's amazing is that in the entire universe, nothing is more powerful than the colossal explosion that created it all, the Big Bang.
والسماء بنيناها بأيد.
A seething mass of energy smaller than an atom grew from nothing. You're inside the Big Bang, the birth of our universe, a violent fireball of unimaginable heat. Only the minutest fraction of a second had passed. But all of this was puny compared to what was about to happen. Propelled by a new surge of internal energy, the universe suddenly entered an incredible period of inflation. it expanded 100 trillion, 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 trillion times.
والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون.
Whatever the universe was at the very beginning, some 13.7 billion years ago, we think it was tiny, an infinitesimal nugget of space. And then something happened, triggering the most colossal explosion in history. In a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a second, the universe grew from the size of that tiny point to something billions of miles across. This colossal blast created everything, all the matter we see in the universe today.
When you look out at the universe and look at the other distant galaxies, you see that they're all fleeing away from us, that they're all moving outward at huge velocities.
In summary, this verse correctly states two scientifically accurate facts about the universe. Number one, the might with which the universe was created.
And the heaven, we built it with might.
And number two, that the universe is still expanding.
And we are indeed expanding it.
Second, we will examine the false claim that this verse refers to the sky or atmosphere and not to the universe. Here is the false claim about the word al-Soma from chapter 51 verse 47.
We have built the heaven with might, and we it is who make the vast extent thereof. Firstly, this verse is not talking about the universe, it's talking about the sky.
As usual, this is simply another false claim, with no evidence whatsoever to support it. Quite the contrary, verse 7 of this same chapter uses the exact same term, al-Soma, and both of its interpretations clearly refer to the universe and not the sky. Verse 7's first interpretation is,
by the heaven, with much interweaving.
And the sky cannot be described as interwoven at all. Now, let's examine the Millennium simulation conducted by the Millennium Run project, which is the largest ever simulation of the universe, as seen from the farthest distance possible, and looking closer inside, to see if the universe can be described as interwoven.
وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُكِ.
The universe does indeed appear to be extensively interwoven.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Now, let's move on to verse 7's other interpretation, which is,
by the heaven, with many pathways.
now, let's see if the universe is full of pathways.
Mass is a term used to describe the energy and matter that objects contain. The larger the mass of an object, the greater its distortion of the space-time fabric. The stronger the effects of gravity.
Gravity is not really a force.
It's a fabric. It's a shape of space and time. And we just move along the curves of these shapes. And the act of doing so takes what would otherwise be a straight line to you and bends it into what you now describe as orbits, as trajectories, as pathways through the cosmos.
وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُكِ.
The universe does indeed have an uncountable number of such pathways. As a result, verse 7 confirms the correct context of Al-Soma in verse 47, that the universe was built with might. Furthermore, another marvel of the Quran is that the formal dictionary meanings of the single word, hubuk, both provide amazingly precise and different scientific descriptions of the interwoven appearance of the universe, as well as the pathways of matter in space. In conclusion, the Quran chapter 51 verse 47 correctly states that the universe was built with might, and that it is still expanding. The mighty creation and expansion of the universe are clearly stated in the Quran, while these scientific discoveries could not have been known 1400 years ago. Furthermore, in this chapter, the term Al-Soma clearly refers to the universe, as confirmed by verse 7, which consequently provided two additional, meticulously accurate descriptions of the universe that could not have been known 1400 years ago. It's not surprising that proving the miraculous meaning of one Quranic verse has led to additional scientific miracles, because Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said about the Holy Quran,
and its wonders never cease.
We sincerely hope you enjoyed this episode of Islam for Dummies, and we hope to see you again next time. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Welcome to Islam for Dummies. Previously, we discussed the Quran's description of the expanding universe. Today, we will be talking about the Quran's description of the Big Bang and the common origin of all space and matter. It is important to point out that while it is not a science textbook, yet the Quran mentions numerous scientific facts long before they were discovered. First, we will examine the creation of the universe through the Big Bang.
When you look out at the universe and look at the other distant galaxies, you see that they're all fleeing away from us, that they're all moving outward at huge velocities. You extrapolate that all the way back, you see that one time, maybe 13 or 14 billion years ago, everything that there was must have been compressed into one inconceivably dense point.
أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا.
Whatever the universe was at the very beginning, some 13.7 billion years ago, we think it was tiny, an infinitesimal nugget of space. And then something happened, triggering the most colossal explosion in history.
أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما.
It seems there was an explosion so huge that it created an entire universe. The Big Bang. No one knows what caused it, but we think that the Bang created space, time, and all the matter in the universe.
In summary, this Quranic verse states two scientifically accurate facts about the creation of the universe through the Big Bang. Number one, the common origin of all space and matter.
The heavens and the earth were both joined.
And number 2, the violent separation that created all the matter in the universe.
Then we tore them apart.
Second, we will examine the false claim that the common origin, stated in chapter 21 verse 30, is similar to the beliefs of other societies at that time. Let's listen to discuss Islam's false claim.
That the heavens and the earth were one piece before we clove them asunder. It does, however, follow very precisely creation mythologies that were believed in at the time of Muhammad.
Firstly, the most widely held belief at that time was the Greek view of an eternal universe.
According to the Sumerians, the heavens had been separated from the earth.
Secondly, regarding the Sumerians,
their beliefs on the matter of cosmic creation must often be gleaned from wholly unrelated texts, because no direct texts exist.
In any case, their gleaned beliefs were clearly unrelated to the Quran, in that
the primal unformed mass of heaven and earth was given birth to by Namu. Thereafter, it was the union of heaven with earth which produced the great gods.
Discuss Islam is also confused about the ancient Egyptian beliefs.
And the idea that the heavens and the earth were one single block that was broken into two was common in ancient Egypt.
Thirdly, this is an utter fabrication. According to Crystallinks.com and other sources, the ancient Egyptians believed that
during the day, the gods Jeb and his twin sister wife, Nut, are separated, but each evening Nut comes down to meet Jeb, and this causes darkness. She gives birth to the sun in the east and swallows the sun in the west.
The meeting of the Egyptian gods, Jeb and his twin sister wife, Nut, to cause night and day, is not even remotely similar to verse 21:30. Fourthly, both the Sumerian and ancient Egyptian civilizations died out more than 700 years before the Quran, and their beliefs were only discovered recently by archaeologists. As a result, the Quran's accurate description of the common origin of all matter in the heavens and the earth is very different from the ridiculous beliefs of ancient societies. Third, we will examine the false notion that the terminology used in this verse does not match with science. Here's the false claim about verse 21:30, which states that the heavens and the earth were both joined before being torn apart.
The Big Bang is not about a lump blowing up. Matter did not exist to be cloven asunder, and there was certainly no splitting of earth from heaven.
Every single part of Discuss Islam's statement is incorrect. As we saw earlier, just prior to the Big Bang,
everything that there was must have been compressed into one inconceivably dense point.
And the final false claim is that
one can hardly think of a more inaccurate description of the Big Bang than this verse.
In fact, it is the term Big Bang that is inaccurate, while the verse is quite precise.
It was meant to be a derisive term. However, the Big Bang is really a contradiction because it was not big and there was no bang. It wasn't big because we think that the universe started from a singularity of some sort, and there was no bang because there was no air to carry the vibrations. So a Big Bang is in some sense is a misnomer, but the name stuck.
In contrast to the term Big Bang, the Quran's description is perfectly accurate to any rational person.
Thinking where Muhammad came from, he was after all a Bedouin. I think it is almost impossible that he could have known about things like the common origin of the universe, because scientists have only found out within the last few years, with very complicated and advanced technological methods, that this is the case. And somebody who did not know something about nuclear physics 1400 years ago could not, I think, be in a position to find out from his own mind, for instance, that the earth and the heavens had the same origin.
Having demonstrated the clear meaning of this verse, if one were to scrutinize further the Quran's literal translation, the word joined is actually stitched together, and the word door also applies to fabric. We already admitted that the Quran is not a science textbook. So is it fair to critique the Quran's terminology against the terminology used by Einstein? Let's see about that.
In 1905, Einstein published his theory of special relativity, which explored the link between space and time.
In Einstein's view, there isn't really a separate thing. There's space and then there's time. But there's just one thing, space-time, that we all live in.
He thought of this new space-time as a fabric weaving together space and time. In 1915, Einstein developed his theory of general relativity, which modified special relativity to include gravity and its effects on this fabric of space-time. Mass is a term used to describe the energy and matter that objects contain. The larger the mass of an object, the greater its distortion of the space-time fabric. The stronger the effects of gravity.
Gravity is not really a force. It's a fabric. It's a shape of space and time.
As a result, the Quran's description of the common origin and violent separation of all matter is not only more precise than the term of Big Bang itself, but the terminology of fabric stunningly coincides with Einstein's descriptions of space and matter. In conclusion, the Quran chapter 21 verse 30 correctly states that everything in the universe came from a common origin before being ripped apart. The Quran accurately describes the Big Bang better than the term itself, while this scientific discovery could not have been known 1400 years ago. Furthermore, the verse's unusual terminology of fabric is amazingly identical to the ingenious description of space and matter by elite scientists like Einstein. And as usual, those attempting to refute the Quran's clear signs have only succeeded in proving their own ignorance about the scientific evidence and about the beliefs of ancient societies. We sincerely hope you enjoyed this episode of Islam for Dummies, and we hope to see you again next time.